Welcome to The Inside. I am Bable Jonathan. Latest statistics compiled, documented by Stand Up for Cameroon civil society platform Human Rights Working Group indicate that at least 10,000 people have been killed in the Boko Haram security crisis in the far north region of the country and the Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic, and over 1 million children have been deprived of education in different communities in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and also in the far north region of the country. Gross human rights violations and the most ruthless violence recorded in these regions because of the security tensions, and this in a context where drinking water or better still potable water and of course electricity, roads, jobs, hospitals and schools are scarce commodities, or have become scarce commodities even to citizens in areas where there is a relative peace, where there is no conflict. That is other regions apart from the northwest, southwest regions, the far north, and even the Adamawa, the north region, as well as the east region, where there are some sporadic incursions from Silica rebels from the Central African Republic. And added to this, what is now known as the COVID Gate, a COVID-19 scandal. Billions of francs CFA allegedly embezzled by some state officials, money that was meant for the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. And it is within this backdrop that some 20 Cameroonian women leaders have written to the United Nations Security Council asking for its intervention in the security crisis in the Republic of Cameroon, asking that the organization should discuss the crisis in its upcoming meeting, and also to the International Monetary Fund over the COVID-19 scandal. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Thank you for staying with us in this edition of The Inside. We are receiving one of the 20 Cameroonian women leaders who wrote to the United Nations Security Council and the International Monetary Fund over the security crisis in the Republic of Cameroon and the COVID-19 phone scandal. Kabanwala Edith is the national president of the Cameroon People's Party and member of Stand Up for Cameroon civil society platform. Madam the President, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, as usual.
Earlier this week, you and other 19 women leaders wrote to the United Nations Security Council. Tell us a little more about this letter.
The letter to the Security Council was written last week precisely because the Security Council will be meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow, the Security Council will receive the report of the special representative of the Secretary General, and they will receive the report of the Secretary General of the United Nations. And in that report will be elements from all of the special representatives around the world. So the special representative for Central Africa, Mr. Luseni Fall, will be reading his report on Central Africa, and of course Cameroon is going to feature. We as women decided that we cannot allow this meeting of the Security Council to pass again without bringing forth our opinion, our thoughts on this situation. Because as you know, for 5 years that this conflict has been going on.
The northwest and southwest.
The northwest and southwest in the Anglophone region. The UN Security Council has not put Cameroon officially on its agenda as an agenda.
Done in an area meeting.
It was done in an area meeting, and they received reports like they are going to receive on Monday. But having Cameroon as a subject which they should discuss as a council and take decisions with regard to this conflict, they have not done so. And we did this, one, because the Anglophone crisis has been going on for 5 years. But the Boko Haram crisis has been going on for longer, for close to 10 years today. And when we look around the sub-region, Nigeria right now is a boiling point of violence. There is violence going on in all parts of Nigeria. We have the Central African Republic, where we have been receiving refugees for over 10 years, and the violence continues. Now, since the last couple of months, we have Chad in a very unstable situation. So when we look at that sub-regional situation, we felt like the Security Council seems to be ignoring our part of the world. Why? So we wrote to them to say, we need you to pay attention. Other parts of the world, yes, conflict is going on, but this is the part of the world which is important to us. And we do not want the situation to aggravate to a point where the UN Security Council starts to meet to see how they are going to do a peacekeeping mission, see how they are going to send blue helmets here. No. If they act now, we can prevent such a situation. But if they do not act now, the stability of the entire sub-region is dependent on Cameroon. And we see signs in Cameroon that things could go awry, even worse than what is going on now. So we felt like we had to ring the alarm bell.
The northwest and southwest regions taking a new twist with more and more explosive devices and sophisticated weapons coming into play.
Exactly. And so we felt that, you know, if you see fire coming and you do not ring the alarm bell to say we need water, we need to stop this fire while it is far away, then you are an accomplice to the burning. We have been doing a lot of things here on the ground ourselves as Cameroonians. As you know, we have been to the conflict regions. We have advocated to our government. I don't know how many times over the last 5 years. We have carried out humanitarian actions and so on. The women on that list are women, some of them live in the conflict areas. A lot of them are carrying out humanitarian activity. Those who are in business have seen their businesses affected by this crisis. So we are women who are at the front lines of this crisis, and we felt this meeting of the Security Council, we had to raise an alarm and ask the Security Council some very key, simple measures it can take.
Key and simple measures. What are some of those measures that you think that the Security Council of the United Nations can take to influence happenings in the northwest and southwest regions, but also in the far north and in the east regions of the country where there are issues of security?
So the first thing we said to the Security Council is that they should use the power of their voice. The Security Council is one of the most powerful organizations in the world, and they have yet to officially communicate to the government of Cameroon. We know they have had discussions within their meetings. We know that probably in private they have maybe talked to the Cameroonian government, but an official communique, an official communication from the UN Security Council is something they have not done. And it is something of great weight and great importance that can push our government to do key things, which we also outlined in our document. Number one, de-escalate the tensions. How can the government do this? Release non-violent political prisoners. We have innocent people who are caught up in the trap, who have been arrested because of Boko Haram. Non-violent people. They are in jail today. We have hundreds. Our last count for the Anglophone crisis is over 400 people who are in jail today. About 155 of them were arrested in 2017. In 2017, there were no arms. Nobody had yet taken up arms. So these people were arrested before the armed conflict. Why are they still in jail? So you have also the third group of people is people who have been arrested because of political mobilization. We have Stand Up for Cameroon members in jail. We have members of the MRC, still over 100 of them in jail. The release of all of these people will already bring down tensions in the country. That is number one, and it is the most easy, simple thing for the government to do.
These calls have been coming on and on from almost everywhere, in and out of the country, but yet, however, the President of the Republic has already granted amnesty to some, I think 2-3 times, but there's still a bulk who are in jail, like 400, like you were indicating.
Absolutely. And you know, Mr. Babila, there is an injustice if you and I go to jail for the same thing and you are released and I am not. Your family is jubilating, but mine is feeling a double injustice. We were already arrested for no reason. All of our families were unhappy about that. But then when you are released and I remain in jail, my family believes that there's something particular against them. And we have seen this in all of these different kinds of arrests, that some people are arrested, others are released. It does not make sense. I think I have said here on your platform time and time again that the injustice of having a DDR where people who have been armed fighters, who have maybe killed somebody, who have maybe kidnapped somebody, who have maybe raped somebody, those people can go, put down their guns, and the government accompanies them to live a normal life. Whereas the BBC Manchos, the Terence Spence, the Felix Galim, and so on, who never took a weapon, never took a stick, never even threatened anybody. They were non-violent actors. Those people are still in Kondengi jail as we speak. So this kind of double standards, they create an injustice in the society.
Apart from the release of those who have been arrested indiscriminately, those who were arrested according to you and other legal minds in violation of the law, in violation of national and internationally recognized human rights, apart from their release, what else are you asking the United Nations to compel the Cameroon government to do?
So we are asking the UN Security Council to ask the Cameroonian government to carry out actions that will lead to a ceasefire in the northwest and southwest, and actions that will also lead to conditions where Boko Haram's ability to recruit in the far north will be decreased. What does this mean? It means that the government must now organize a bottom-up dialogue. They have allowed the situation to fester. We can no longer come from the top down. We must go from the bottom up. And what this means is that they need to go into the 13 divisions of the Northwest and Southwest, meet with communities, all the stakeholders in the community, including the armed groups, talk about reconciliation, talk about transitional justice. Let the communities decide how it is that these young men who have committed crimes against these communities and who have to come back and be reinserted into these communities, we have to have a process whereby they can lay down their arms, come back, and be reinserted into the community. The community needs to be rebuilt. As you know, everything has been destroyed. Religious authority destroyed, traditional authority destroyed, families destroyed. We have so many victims in these regions. We need these victims to be able to stand up, tell their story, and demand justice. So we are talking about a bottom-up inclusive dialogue starting in the regions. From there, we will move to the national level. And we believe that is how we will get ceasefire in these regions.
Right. Talking about getting those who are carrying arms, civilians, carrying arms in the bushes, out of the bushes to normal life, is the DDR not doing that already?
I think the DDR we have seen in the last 5 months, DDR. What could we call them? DDR participants, young men who have laid down their arms. They've been on the streets, I believe, 3 times to protest, to say that they are not getting the services at the level of the DDR, that things are not okay in the DDR. We have information of even food, which is supposed to be at their disposal, not being provided to them as it should be. Talk less of the services of training and job preparedness that
Many
they are
of them
supposed to
saying
be
that
getting.
they have stayed too long in the centers,
And-
they want to
and-
go back and take care of their families.
Exactly. I mean, we also know for a fact that young men have left the DDR and gone back to the bush because the conditions in the DDR were not okay, because the ability to make a livelihood for themselves was not provided for them. So we are asking for this ground-up dialogue as a short-term thing for the government to do, and that the UN Security Council should insist upon in its communication to the government.
And you also mentioned ceasefire. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres
Yes.
called for a ceasefire sometime earlier this year. That was 2020, last year, when the COVID-19 was really at its peak. And this was never respected in Cameroon. He called for a ceasefire in crisis-stricken areas of the world, so that the COVID-19 fight can really go on, so that even humanitarian workers can be able to meet the needs of people who are in difficult situations in those crisis-stricken areas. But in Cameroon, that call was never responded to.
I think there's one armed group in Cameroon that adhered to that call, and none of the others, and government did not even behave as if it had heard a call. And I think that in this, that is the reason, if we are going up to the UN Security Council, the UN institutions are different. Many people do not understand that Cameroon, as a state, is a member of the UN. And as a member state, you have certain rights. You have the other states have certain obligations towards you, and when we see the UN having difficulty moving on the conflicts in Cameroon, it is also because the government of Cameroon is using its presence there to stop discussions about Cameroon. If we have not been on the agenda today, it is because the government of Cameroon is lobbying other member states to tell them, no, do not allow this item to get on the agenda. So we have also carried out lobbying towards those member states, towards those decision makers, to let them hear the voice of the Cameroonian people, because nobody should be mistaken, whether it is the UN or the IMF. It is not Mr. Biya and his ministers who are members of that body. It is the nation of Cameroon. It is the state of Cameroon. And therefore, our letter was to communicate very clearly that whatever this small group of people who are in government are telling you, we, citizens, we have a different opinion. We are also giving you our own information.
Right, we're going to the newsstands now, and we're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review. Right, we're going to be coming to the press review in a short while. Time for us to talk about the arrest of Barrister Amungwa Nicodemus, one of the Anglophone lawyers who have been defending the Anglophone leaders detained in the Kondengi maximum security prison in Yaoundé, Sissiko, Ayuk Tabe and Co. Madam the President, earlier you were talking about the release of all persons unjustly arrested. At the time you're making this a call, just some few days ago, another Anglophone lawyer was picked up, Barrister Amungwa Nicodemus. When you look at this,
we've said it before. The current Biya regime acts like a rogue state. It is incredible to have a state that violates its own laws, because arrest in Cameroon obeys certain laws, certain principles. You know, the right to movement as a citizen is one of your most fundamental rights, because if you do not have movement, you cannot exercise your right to meet, your right to have food, your right to have lodging, and so on and so forth. So it is one of your most fundamental rights. Before the state removes that right from you, they should have very, very good reason to do so. But we see illegal arrests, and we have brought it up in our letter, that the illegal arrests continue. While we are clamoring for those in jail to be released, they are arresting more people and putting them in jail. And, you know, the fact that a lawyer should be arrested in any country in the world, lawyers are part of and parcel of the judiciary system. So it is very, very difficult in any country in the world to arrest a lawyer. It means that you have to respect the law down to its last letter. Here we see a lawyer being picked up like anybody else, without rhyme or reason, and being held and being taken to the
military prison,
the Secretariat d'État for Defense. Again, the BR regime has substituted military tribunal, and this is the way that they diminish institutions in the Republic, Mr. Babila, because when you hear military tribunal, normally you should sit up. You should say in your mind, if you are not a part of the military, you say in your mind, oh my goodness, this is so it must be such a drastic situation, such a bad situation, that something awful has occurred for it to go to military tribunal. But in Cameroon, military tribunal has become banal, because we take every Tom, Dick, Harry, Susan, we take them to the military court for things which have nothing to do with a military crime. The problem with the BR regime is that they have turned all the institutions in the Republic into political instruments to keep themselves in power.
All right, we go to the news stance now, the press review. The media newspaper reports that soldiers have destroyed private oil mills to save palm oil plantations in Equinoxe Tv Ndian Division, southwest region of Cameroon. As reported by the Guardian Post, angry inhabitants of Quen in the northwest region took to the streets to protest against atrocities allegedly being committed by non-state armed groups. The Voice reports what it qualifies as the shocking arrest of another Anglophone lawyer, Barrister Nicodemus Amungwa, and the Post highlights demands for the immediate release of Barrister Amungwa, one of the lawyers of Anglophone leaders Sisiku Ayuk and Co. by the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. Meantime, 20 women leaders petitioned the United Nations Security Council to discuss the Anglophone crisis, as reported by the Guardian Post. According to the Guardian Post, the Northwest Regional Assembly budgetary session ran into storm over violation of decentralization laws by the regional officials. Another edition of the paper says that the alleged embezzlement of billions of francs CFA of COVID-19 money by some state officials is affecting government's fight against the pandemic. According to the Horizon, Cameroon is to host the world's third tallest monument. Thank you for staying with us. We are still with our guest, Kabangwala Edith, National President of the Cameroon People's Party and member of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society Platform. The COVID-19 scandal affecting the COVID-19 fight by the Cameroon government, Madam the President, and you have written to the International Monetary Fund about this.
Yes. We have written to the International Monetary Fund because Cameroon, once again, the International Monetary Fund it's a bank. It's a bank for countries, right? I can put it very simply that way. It is a bank for countries. It is a bank to which all countries which can be beneficiaries are also members. So Cameroon is a member of the International Monetary Fund. And the contrary to what some people think, because I see people say, oh, they give us this money to entrap us and so on. Nobody gives you money. If Cameroon wants money, which is a loan from the IMF does not give grants, it gives loans. So when we go to the IMF for a loan, the government of Cameroon writes what they call a letter of intent. It writes to the IMF to request that the IMF extend to it a loan. And then comes a process where the IMF and the government of Cameroon will sit down, study all the different aspects and elements of this loan, probably argue a little bit back and forth about what each side wants before they agree on the amount of the loan, the conditions of the loan, and so on and so forth. So during COVID-19, the IMF put at the disposal of all of its members what they called a rapid credit facility. This is a facility that IMF puts at the disposal of countries when there is some external shock, something completely unexpected that can, that completely turns the country's finances upside down. And this was COVID-19. So many countries, not just Cameroon, went to the IMF to get funds to be able to manage the pandemic.
Unfortunately, some of the money that was received, I think twice, have taken all the directions.
Absolutely.
According to an audit report by the Supreme Court Audit Bench.
Exactly. So, first of all, what Cameroonians should know is that in his letter of intent, our Minister of Finance wrote that he will do semesterly reports to account for the COVID funds. He wrote that he will respect that the COVID funds will be managed in a manner that respects Cameroonian law and administrative procedures for disbursement. He wrote that they will respect general financial management procedures, because they are not unique to Cameroon. These are things which are done all over the world. The government of Cameroon simply did not respect what it was supposed to do. They did not do their quarterly, their semesterly reporting. They did not respect administrative procedures. They did not respect elementary aspects of good financial management. And when they now went back to the IMF to ask for a new loan, the IMF said, well, but you took an engagement here to account,
to tell us how you're using the money.
Spent this money. So that is what provoked the audit. And we should know that this first audit report, does not audit all the funds. It has audited the Ministry of Health,
part of the funds.
Exactly, and the Ministry of Scientific Research for the most part. It did not audit all the management of the funds, but in that little portion that they have audited, the mismanagement is astronomical.
The report says, for example, concerning the Ministry of Scientific Research, that chloroquine that ought to have been produced here was purchased in India and then brought here, and some stamps showing that it was produced here, pasted on the...
Which is a violation of Cameroonian law on multiple levels, because in Cameroon, only Sename is allowed to buy medicine. You cannot just get up, any ministry cannot just get up and start buying medication. So we have an office whose job it is to buy medication for Cameroon. So it was a violation of that. The way in which they carried out the purchase was a violation. We see in the report that we have budget overdraws, overspending on a budget line by 20 times, Mr. Babila. That means that you left your house, you gave your cook, you agreed with him that he will spend 20,000 francs in the market to buy food. When you came back home, because he had access to it, you discover that he has spent 400,000 francs where you agreed on 20. So these people overspent a budgetary line by a factor of 20. Incredible. They gave contracts. The contracting process by Cameroonian law is very clear. You have to have suppliers who are licensed suppliers to supply to government and specific government departments, especially when it comes to health. They gave contracts to over 78 suppliers who were not licensed to be able to supply these materials to the Ministry of Health. They gave contracts to family members. This is everybody, you don't need to go to accounting school to know this. We know that in contracting process, you cannot give a contract to somebody who is a family member of yours. They gave contracts. Some gentleman there got a contract for over 700 million. He is not only a family member, but he bears the same name as the person who was signing the contracts, or taking decisions on the contracts. So, we see these gross violations. And the reason we have written to the IMF is that it is incredible, unfathomable that the IMF, after putting down regulations, the government of Cameroon violates those regulations. Then they are in the process of giving Cameroon a new loan without any allusion to the mismanagement that has occurred. Once again, Mr. Babila, it's important for Cameroonians to understand these are not grants. They are loans. They are paid by you and I. Tomorrow, when you go to the store and you realize that value-added tax has increased, know that it is increasing to be able to pay back the loans. When you are a market woman and you go to pay for your market space and you realize that the amount has doubled, it is doubling because the country has to pay back these loans which it is taking. So this is not free money. This is money that we pay back with interest. So it is absolutely incumbent upon us to ask the IMF, what on earth are you doing?
And you've asked the IMF not to grant any more loans to Cameroon until the ones that have been given are accounted for.
Mr. Babila, I go back to your cook because I like to explain with simple examples that every viewer can understand. So you agreed with your cook on 20,000. Your cook spent 400,000. Will you give your cook more money until you get clarity on what he has done?
Of course not.
Of course not. So we ask that the government of Cameroon respect the most elementary rules of financial management that we respect in our houses. At least they must respect those fundamental rules. So we are asking the IMF, we are not asking the IMF not to give Cameroon loans any longer. We know we need those loans. The country is in a difficult financial situation. COVID-19 has a strong economic impact. We know that we need those loans. But we are saying that wait until we have explanation on what happened to the first money that you dispersed.
To the missing billions.
Exactly. And two, because some people have said to us, oh, but why don't you wait for the judicial process? Let us make a distinction. The audit is clear. Money was stolen. The judicial process is to determine who stole it, how, when, and where. But the audit report elements are clear. Money was misappropriated. So we don't have to wait for the judicial process before telling the IMF, hold on. Hold on. Let us have clarity on this misappropriation and let the designated people be punished. Let us make sure that your cook has been removed from that place where he's managing money. Is that not the most natural thing to do? Let's make sure that he has been removed so that we have a different person. At least let's take a chance on somebody different who will not steal the money. May or may not, but we don't know. But at least this other person is a thief. It's a proven thief. So we are not going to give them more money to manage.
All right, we're going to take interviews of the week and we'll be right back in some few minutes.
They are in the hospital, cannot dialyze because there's no water. We don't have machines. There are about 400 of us, and there are only 10 machines, and they're not even working. So we are suffering, we are dying. Every day people are dying here. Every day people are dying because of this dialysis. We are not doing that. There are no machines. There's no water. The whole general hospital in Yaoundé, that they don't even have water for the patients. It's very bad. So the government is see it to it. But we are dying. We are really dying. There are people here that they are stay for 2 weeks that they are lying because there are no machines. There's no water for dialysis. So we are making the government to see it. They should not abandon us. We are human beings. We are people like them. Though they are there, they are enjoying. We are not enjoying. We are suffering. Our families are suffering.
We still have quite a number of displaced parents who are still unable to pay fees, and we could not keep sending their children away. We had to keep them in school from start to finish. As we are closing today, we understand with them and we are going to give their report cards.
Humbly accepting that the crisis has touched all the nooks and crannies of this region, I wish to say that the aviation sector has been hardest hit. So I wish to appeal that before being what we are, the wonderful citizens of this nation and this region that we are, we are first and foremost parents. So I'm appealing that anything that touches on these our kids, let's be sensitive about it. Let's be passionate. I wish to appeal that when the means shall be provided, sir, to this wonderful assembly, and you are allocating the resources which would surely not be very much, not be enough. When it comes to the budget, you should kindly see to it that all the afflictions that we named here, the efforts that we made so far, a boost should come from this august assembly.
Taking into consideration all the honors and the problems we are facing due to some errors committed by our forefathers, and hoping that history should not repeat itself, we are going against Section 386, Sub 4. In addition, sir, I refer you back to the fact that a budgetary session is for 15 days. We have not seen this budget here. I will tell you the truth. I have not even gone through 2 pages. This budget has violated, has denied this August Assembly the responsibility to study the budget and vote it on the basis of knowledge. So, my motion is that let this form the House, because we are acting in all fairness. Let this August Assembly be given at least 2 to 3 hours so that we can study the draft budget as it is and reconvene for real business to be done.
I do not know whether you doubt the veracity of the figures or you doubt the modalities. Here is a budget which is largely functional and which has only 6 months before the end of the year. And the constraints tabled before the authorities were that it should be approved before the 15th of June. They have not, I hope, put your shoes, put your feet in other person's shoes, and then you can get the right decision.
The entire investment from studies, projects, and the infrastructure will cost way close to 5 billion. So you can see that apart from the budget that has been shared to all the regions, we have been favored by additional budgets, some from non-state actors.
With a very good quantity of fake whiskey and wine that those who deal in this have been selling on the market. As you can see, we have wines and whiskey of different qualities that are actually fake. That if you are not been told, you will never understand that this is an illegal business. So this operation is going to continue. We are going to make sure that all those who manage bars, snack and other drinking spots, we are going to infiltrate and ensure that all fake drinks are going to be extracted from the market, and to ensure that Cameroonians don't continue to consume fake drinks.
Thank you for staying with us, Madam the President. You indicated in your report to the United Nations Security Council that all of these issues, security problems, embezzlement and mismanagement of public funds are happening in a context where potable water, electricity, roads, jobs, hospitals and schools have become scarce commodities in the country. And in the first interview that we had, listen to a hemodialysis, a kidney failure patient seriously complaining that they have been abandoned by the state.
Absolutely. I think, as you've noticed, we wrote these letters and they have had very, very high resonance with the population. And the reason for that is that the issues we are talking about are affecting the population directly. You cannot imagine that people store funds for health care in a country where people are dying from lack of health care. It is unconscionable. We could have done many things with these COVID funds. At least we could have put water. They are complaining of lack of water at the Central Hospital in Yaoundé. We could have had water. We could have made sure that those systems at least were running, and even after COVID we have something in place. So I think these letters are timely. They are talking about the issues affecting Cameroonians, and the resonance we are seeing in the population is due to that.
Kabangwala is the national president of the CPP, Cameroon People's Party, and member of Stand Up for Cameroon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and please, we ask Cameroonians, go out and sign the petition. We started out as 20 signing. Anybody can sign. We have put the petition online. Go to our Facebook pages, go to Twitter pages. You will find the petition. Please go there and sign and communicate with the UN and the IMF.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for this edition of The Inside.